Hey everyone, it's Julianne Meyer, your host of Own Your Wellness, and I'm excited to be back here today. Well, I'm always excited, but today I have a friend of mine who's also a colleague and she's amazing. Her name is Sarah Stockham. And you know what? I'm just going to bring her on. I can't wait for you guys to hear her voice because she's got the most amazing, soothing voice in the world. It's so cool. Welcome, Sarah.
Hi, friend. How are you?
I'm great. I'm back now that I get to see your shining face again.
Good to see you as well. And I have to tell you that I loved the intro and especially the hummingbird. When we moved into this place, we called it Hummingbird Haven. And everything that we've planted over the years has been to bring the hummingbirds in. And it's just fabulous. So I so connect with the hummingbird.
I didn't know that. I love that. That is so cool. I love hummingbirds in general, just because they're hummingbirds, but also because of, the fact that they fly their wings in an 8 or an infinity symbol, or, the fact that they can go every which way and they defy the odds of science. So
if I can just put one more piece in there. Yesterday, we had a Cooper's hawk come in and land right after I'd filled. Each morning, we put out special food for the birds. We have the regular bird seed, love it. But we put some special out, and a Cooper's hawk came and landed. And of course, everybody was super silent and still, and nobody moved. He stayed for 4 or 5 minutes. Had never seen a Cooper stay that long.
Wow.
It was not 10 minutes later, and here comes the hummingbird to land in exactly the same place. Tiny in comparison to the Cooper's hawk, but just owning it. Like, this is my space. You were here before, and now I'm here.
I love that. I wish humans could be like that too.
We have the capacity. We can do this.
Absolutely.
And I love that you are talking about wellness from all the different points of view, because it makes a difference in our lives.
It really does. And I mean, I happen to know you better than a lot of our guests right now, but I will say that, you can't be healthy and well if you're not in a good job, if you're like unhappy. I mean, everything is connected. It's not one little part here. It's not like a roll top desk with all these little things that open and close. It's all connected.
So very true, Julianne. Absolutely.
So I would love it if you would share a little bit about yourself. You have a very interesting story. And then also just a little bit about your own wellness journey.
Absolutely. And the two of them really come together all the way through. I can't talk about one without the other part of it, because they juxtapose each other throughout my life. My parents were missionaries in Congo. I'm the youngest of 3 girls, and grew up in the Democratic Republic of Congo, was born there. And my parents, if you are triggered by things, just turn off just for like 2 minutes and then come right back. My parents were in language school. When they got pregnant with me, my mom cried because they were going back to Congo and there was a war. And they wanted another child. That was not the issue. But the idea of going back into a place that was completely unstable, they went back. Within a few weeks, my dad was taken hostage, was held for a number of weeks. I have a cleft lip today because of the stress that my mom was under. The UN came, they were airlifted out with my sisters and got to safety. But I cannot talk about my own journey without me thinking all the way back to health really does begin, I think, before we take our first breath. And the fact that my parents wanted me, the fact that the missionary doctor who was there when I came out and saw that I had a cleft lip just said, now, before the weeds begin to grow, that whole idea of our minds can set anything up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was setting up for my parents. This is okay. We can do surgery. It's all going to be fine. And that was really the place that my parents came from. My father was a photographer. There are no pictures of me before I had my first surgery at 8 months. They waited that long until there was a person who could come out from the States to do the anesthesiology part of the story. Anyways, that is the backstory of my life growing up in this incredible pantheistic society that had really embraced how education could change lives for everybody. And my parents were highly involved in education in addition to working on clean water projects. And so we would move around. When people first meet me, they'll sometimes say, "Are you a military brat?" And I'm not, but I totally understand that third world culture, the moving around, I need to figure out how to fit in. And so with all those different layers that came on with that, Julianne, I have to tell you that I became a pretty good chameleon. And that the accent that I have today is not the accent that I had when I was growing up, in part because I was going to school with kids from all around the world who English was their 4th and 5th language. But also from the standpoint that my mom was of Scottish origin, and so there was that in the house as well. So just saying that when I finally came to a point, 2008 for me was the crux of it, and I was having some pretty severe health issues, and health, of course, impacts our full life. My thyroid wasn't working like it was supposed to and went in for surgery. And in that, I was sleeping multiple hours a day and waking up and not rested at all. Whatever I was eating wasn't working for me. The doctor said, "Oh, we have the solution. We'll put you on meds." And I'm not knocking meds at all. I have a sister who's a double board certified physician. I'm not knocking Western medicine or Eastern medicine. I think that they can work together. In this process, though, was really where I came to my very lowest point. And a girlfriend of mine was doing a book club, Beth Meisner, and she said, "Come join us, Sarah." And I thought, I'll do this. In the book club, we were beginning to talk about meditation. And for me, Julianne, I had never been able to meditate. I had this really great gift of being able to take lots of pieces of paper, different colors of pens, and write down all of my ideas that were in my brain. I call it a brain dump. It's a super helpful thing to do, but I could never get to that being quiet place. And there was somebody there who did Qigong, didn't offer. There was somebody there who did Reiki, and they offered. So I went in, had a 15-minute session, and I went home that night and I slept the best that I had in at least 4 years. And I am a living testimony that if you can straighten out the sleep part of your life, so many other pieces move into place for you. And so really that was my journey back. Was we were in a super tight place financially. It had really impacted us. But I decided and made the determination that I needed to learn Reiki just for myself. Never intended to be teaching it, never intended to be on television talking about it, never intended to set up 2 nonprofits that support it, never intended to be writing books about it. I just wanted to be able to sleep. It was so square one for me. And then I thought, gosh, if I learn how to do this and I can help my husband and daughter and they can be sleeping better, wouldn't that be a great thing? So really my wellness journey started because somebody reached out and said, "Hey, come." And I said, "What do I have to lose?" And somebody else said, "Hey, come." And I thought, what do I have to lose? And it has been truly life transformational for me.
I adore that. And you know what's really funny, because I do know you, and the fact that you weren't able to meditate is really bizarre to me, because you are the queen of meditation now.
It is a funny thing.
I love it when you lead meditations for us and our spiritual gatherings and everything. You know, anytime I get to hear you do that, it's fabulous. So I think it's really interesting that you went from not being able to becoming, in my mind, really good at it, like respected. And I had never told you this, but my boyfriend, the way that I'm like described you or the other ladies in our group, he's like, "Is she the one with the nice voice?" I thought that was really cute.
That
He
is.
finds your voice soothing, and I hear that over and over and over again. So I just wanted to share that with you, because you know we should hear positivity and positive things. So
Thank you.
So I'm kind of fascinated. I would love for you to speak a little bit more about the importance of sleep. I know that you're not a scientist or anything like that. However, you have firsthand experience and knowledge about the importance of it. And, you know, there's a saying that I'll sleep when I die. And my response is, okay, well, then you'll die sooner. So, so if you wouldn't mind speaking into that a little bit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of my favorite things, I'm going to speak about sleep, not only for myself, but also as a Reiki practitioner, as a Reiki master, as somebody who teaches classes. And in this conversation, this question really comes up because in earnest, people are looking for ways to be able to sleep better. So if you go online, they're going to tell you, be in a dark place, have it be cool, and have it be quiet. And I so appreciate that. My husband will laugh, and now he starts to do this too now when we travel, that I go and I take the washcloths in the bathroom and I start putting them over all the little tiny red lights or lights that are in the room for whatever, right? So that the room can be as quiet and as dark as possible. And then the coolness is important as well. What I love about Reiki is that it helps the 2 hemispheres of the brain to be able to talk together and balance out. And one of the ways that we do that, if you read the book by Pamela Miles, who gets to go into Dr. Oz's surgical theater when he's doing open heart surgery and do Reiki, they know that people who are receiving Reiki heal faster, they go home from the hospitals faster, they require less medication. And all of those studies are in her book called Reiki, A Comprehensive Guide. But in there, she also talks about the pineal gland and the occipital ridge being the most important place when we are Reikiing somebody. So when I have clients who are in the hospital during the times that we're actually able to go in, I want, if I can possibly get to that occipital ridge in the very, very back, because just touching there and helping the person to move to a quieter place using guided meditations, using a soothing voice, using counting backwards, whatever it happens to be, helps a person to be able to get the two hemispheres to work together. Now, I will tell you that when somebody comes to me for Reiki for the first time, I tell them that I will be checking in the next day with them. Because if somebody has not been sleeping well, and this is true if you go into a salt room as well, when the pineal gland finally gets a chance to do what it's supposed to do and relaxes a little bit, or moves into a place of working like it's supposed to, it releases chemicals. And that first night of sleep, you can have the most bizarre dreams. They're not scary dreams, but you can see the, big pink elephants and all the rest of that. And to not be afraid of that, that is your body telling you that you are so far out of whack that it's coming back into a place of alignment and that you slept well. So there is that part of it as well. They did a study with people about Reiki, and part of them, all of them in the study, it was a smaller study of 42 people, but every single person in there wanted to be able to have a more peaceful, happier life, wanted to be able to sleep better, wanted to be able to be inside of their own being better. They divided everybody into 3 different groups. There was a fake Reiki group, there was a hands-on Reiki group, and then there was a distance Reiki group. When they came back, each of them got one 1-hour session for 6 weeks in a row. When they came back at the end of the 6 weeks and did all of the different tests and the questions all over again, the people who had received fake Reiki, no difference. They were still super triggered. They were feeling a lot of anxiety still. The people who had even the distance Reiki and the hands-on showed a difference in terms of how they were doing. And that difference, when they tested them a year later, it was still in place. So it was taking place in the brain being too far one side or the other, because two hemispheres are going to be working on the 2 sides of our body, right? We need to have them come together for us to be able to process information, including us being able to come to a quiet place to be able to sleep. And so I love that study, because it just talks again about the power of allowing somebody to come into your life, somebody who's saying, I have something, are you willing to try it? And I'm a teacher in a regular public school classroom. And so we do the, don't talk to strangers and all. I totally get that part of the story, but I'm guessing the people who are on your show who are wanting to own their wellness are also people who are serious about looking for different methodologies and different pieces of the story to help them live a life where they can own their own health, they can own their own wellness, and know that they are in charge of it, that they are not having to sit back and be resentful because somebody didn't stock the fridge with their zucchini and spinach.
I love that. So there are guests that are watching live, and we have a question from Helene Wilson, and it's, can you tell a cancer survivor how to sleep better? Is there anything that would be different for her as opposed to somebody who doesn't? Or if you wouldn't mind answering that.
So my experience with friends who are going through cancer is that they put chemicals in the body, and they do it on purpose for really important reasons, that they're trying to target certain things. Our bodies, though, can handle a certain level of toxicity, and we can be okay with it. It can affect our dreams. It can affect how we feel. We can start feeling heavy. And some of us pick up heavy metals just by our daily kinds of things, and other people don't pick them up as heavy as easily. So know that we are all human, but that there are some differences that are taking place there. My suggestion for somebody who is experiencing medication of any kind of level is to be getting into a bathtub or a foot soak. Put salt in there. The body doesn't know if it's pink or if it's white. The salt helps us to be able to detoxify. And in that process, then we always, always, always rinse off afterwards, because our skin has this beautiful two-way street where it will release things. But if we let it sit on top of the skin, it'll reabsorb it again. And so I really encourage people who are struggling with sleep patterns to do that. And then also, the chemicals are going to make you feel different inside of your being. And for you to be aware of that and to be having a conversation with yourself about how you are feeling. I know that can sound a little esoteric, but that whole idea of I am not the drugs that are in me. The drugs that are in me are here to heal me. I am not the fact that I'm sleeping 18 hours a day as a result of the drugs that are in me. I'm sleeping 18 hours a day because I am healing. And to be able to still realize that that beautiful person that you are is there, and to be in touch, to be reaching out to that, to be listening to that. And I just encourage everybody, whether you are experiencing cancer, if you are experiencing people who have mental illness around you, if you yourself are, the whole idea of being in community, it is the number one thing, Julianne, that has been the hardest for me while we have been home. And it's one of the reasons that it was so easy for me to come into the community where I met you online, because I was looking for a place of like-minded people who were interested in growing and who were willing to talk about their journey, willing to be open. All of us are very, very different, but for us to be able to be vulnerable and in a safe place. And yes, test the waters and make sure it's a safe place. But what an absolutely incredible thing it is to be with other people who are in a journey, wanting health, wanting to be whole.
Oh, that is so well said and beautiful. Oh my goodness. I just adore that. It was very well said. And, something that I want to point out before I ask you my next question is that, a lot of people aren't open to what they would consider alternative ways of addressing health issues. And my comment or thought about that is, the world isn't flat, it's round. So just because it hasn't become mainstream necessarily doesn't mean there isn't a ton of value. So that being said, I would love it if you would explain for the guests who don't really know what Reiki is, what it actually entails, what it is, what you do.
Well, I have to tell you that I love this question. And it was the reason that I really didn't tell anybody at all that I was doing Reiki for a number of years, especially my family, because I come from a long line of serious scientists. They have worked on some of the biggest projects in the world. They have helped solve some of the biggest pieces of how do we make this particular thing work. And so here I am saying, I found this great way to be able to sleep. And, what is it? Well, you have somebody put their hands on you and you just go into this quiet place and your brain gets quiet and then you go home and you're able to sleep. So let me come at it from a different point of view. We have this beautiful thing, a heart inside of us, and our heart has electromagnetic waves. That's not a difficult concept for scientists to wrap their brains around. They were able to see it. They can do the EKGs, all those kinds of things, right? So we are energetic beings. Then think about the idea of being in a super crowded place. For me, it's an airport, and I am facing this direction, and I can feel that there is somebody inside of my space, and they're not touching my body at all. We call that space our biofield. Some people will call it an aura. But with my science family, I call it a biofield, right? Because inside of this life field, then, there can be somebody sneezing 8 feet away from me. I'm not concerned at any point because they're 8 feet away from me. My biofield is far enough away from theirs. They're not touching, they're not intermingling necessarily. All is well with the world, right? And part of us with so in this process, then we have ideas and concepts. And if we keep going over those same ideas and concepts, let's make them be good ideas and concepts. I am going to enjoy the healthiest breakfast I can possibly have for my body tomorrow morning. The more I think about that, the more I line up with that idea, the more that intention becomes where I'm going and what I'm after and what I'm doing, right? All of us have experiences in life that are not what we would say, woohoo, that's an exciting one, where we have been on a bicycle and fallen down. We have gone to the grocery store and the conversation was never intended for us to listen to, but we heard it and it wasn't a kind conversation. We have
Mhm.
these things, and if we keep thinking about it, like I'm thinking about my healthy breakfast, that starts to then move into not just an experience that I have had out there, but begins to move further into my being. So
Mhm.
another way of talking about Reiki is if somebody is feeling really good about themselves, their shoulders naturally go back out. And we have this area that if you know about chakras, they talk about the solar plexus chakra, that
Mhm.
area, that energy center in the center of our being, right where the rib cage comes together in the front, that will just naturally be open. Shoulders are back. They're feeling good about life. Same person doesn't get enough sleep, is taking heavy medications, is struggling to figure out from one piece to the next piece of what's going to take place in life, perhaps is going through financial stresses, whatever it happens to be, they begin to carry that differently. And now the shoulders go forward. They are closing down that solar plexus. So, what Reiki does is it allows a person to be able to, without having to talk about it. And I have done talk therapy, and it's been really helpful in my life.
Mhm.
So I'm not saying don't do that, but what I love about Reiki is that my therapist, the therapists who come to me for Reiki, they get to be on the table. The doctors get to be on the table. Everybody gets to, if they're here in person, get to be on the table, staying face up the whole time. We can talk, they can go to sleep. It doesn't matter to me. I will lead them in a short guided meditation just to help their brain move it from the I just got here to here we are. And what I
Mhm.
am doing is I am just facilitating an opportunity for the body to do what the body does best, which is heal. And what I love, love, love about about this time is that my desire 2 years ago was to be able to do this for people distance. And I
Mhm.
love that I have clients in New York. I have clients in Texas. We don't have to be together in the same city or the same space. I have a client in Greece. I have one in Spain. We can be any place because we are energy, and I can lead you in that same thing. And Einstein called quantum entanglement spooky action at a distance. It works. We don't have to be in the same space, and I love that it works.
So do I. And I was interested in that. I mean, I happen to know personally that you were doing long distance, but because of COVID, there's a lot of, everything's changed in how we relate and spend time with each other. So I'm so glad that a modality that is available and so effective is still available and effective. It makes a huge difference. I mean, I know I'd struggled with sleeping as well for a while. And, I tried everything, but it's amazing if you can get your energy right. And oh my goodness, there's nothing better than sleep. It is not a waste of time. Anyway, we do have to go to commercial break. So I will be right back with you, Miss Sarah. Thank you so much for joining us. Oh my gosh, isn't she great? I just love her. There's so much more to her than just this. I wish we had more hours than that. But we do have to go to commercial break. But before we go to commercial break, I do want to take the time to say welcome to our guests who are watching live. Thank you so much for joining us. Definitely, I appreciate you all. And for those of you who are watching later, awesome. Thank you. Anyway, we do have to go to commercial. As I said, we'll be right back. Hey everyone, Julianne Meyer, your host of Own Your Wellness. We are back again. It was quick and painless. Let's bring back my special guest, Miss Sarah Stockman. Thank you for joining us. Whenever I have the opportunity to speak with you, my energy and my thoughts automatically go straight up just because you have such amazing energy yourself. So, speaking of that, I know it's not like an endless supply. You have to replenish that and make sure that you stay on that path in order to stay at that higher vibration. What do you do on a typical day to keep your cup full?
Oh, that is such a great question. I just want to touch first on what I didn't want. And I had found that that was so much easier for me to write about or journal. So if you take a piece of paper and you fold it in half and you write all the things that you want, perhaps that's kind of a short list. But if you write down all the things that you don't want, not wanting to go to the laundromat anymore. You want to have a washing machine at your house, right? Not wanting to get sick every time somebody has a cold. Oh, I want to be healthier and not get sick with the cold that goes around. I know that I feel hard for me to get up in the morning when my alarm clock goes off and I need to get up for work. That's what I don't like that feeling. What I do want is I want a better night's sleep. And so when I figured out some of the pieces that I wanted, I began to really look at my own schedule. And I can go in as little or as much as you want with this, Julianne. But yes, I have everything on my calendar on my phone. Yes. But every single Sunday afternoon, evening, I take the time to take a 4x6 card. It's completely white. And I write down Monday, the date and what I'm doing and when I am doing those things. And then I put a line, and then I go to Tuesday, and I'm getting pretty good at shorthand, right? I've been doing this for 12 years. And so do that, come down to Wednesday. This doesn't mean that I'm inflexible. If I have cancellations, if different things happen, the internet goes out, whatever, right? Things are going to happen. I'm okay with that, but it really helps me set the stage on Sunday for my energy flow for the week. And if I have a day that's super, super packed, I want to make sure that I'm really cognizant of that beforehand, because our brains are amazing. We can problem solve things. And yes, I can think on my feet, but I find that if I have a little bit of time to think about it ahead of time, the solutions I come up with can be so much better. When I do this, I want to make sure I'm coming from a place that I'm not filled with anxiety when I'm thinking about my schedule, thinking about those kinds of things. So I started with a big piece of paper and I wrote down, when am I going to do laundry? We have it here in the house. I can do it whenever, but when am I going to choose? What's my laundry time going to be? It sounds so mundane, but the liberation, the freedom that comes out of that, my brain's not thinking, do I have clothes to wear? I know I have clothes to wear, and I know that when I'm going to be doing my laundry. The grocery shopping, it's on the list. Do I have to do it at that particular day and time? Maybe, maybe not. But again, it just lets me know, it lets my being know that all is well, that I'm looking out for all those different parts of who I am. And then if you want me to go bigger on that, I can, but I'll let me know if you want to go in a bigger picture.
Well, actually, I do, but I do want to make a comment first, and that is it's something that took me a long time. I was so anti-schedule for the longest time because I wanted freedom. But it's amazing how much more freedom you have when you schedule things out. And like you said, as long as you're flexible, because things do come up. Like you said, I work mostly online, but if the internet's down, I can't make it go back up. I don't have that personal power. And the other thing too that you mentioned that I thought was really fascinating about how much energy it takes for you to think about those things, like, do I have clean clothes? All of that. And it all takes up energy. And it made me think of Steve Jobs and how he wore the same thing every day. So he didn't have to think about it. And he had his brain free and that energy free to think about what he really wanted to think about instead of a turtleneck and some pants. So anyway, I would love for you to dive a little bit deeper as well.
Absolutely. And I think that I'm going to just touch on something that you had shared recently about going to the beach and having a time set aside to be there at the beach, to take care of yourself, and that after a few minutes you'd seen dolphins and whoo, it's time. No, you needed to stay. And what happened because you stayed the whole time, Julianne?
I got to see a whale. How cool is that?
Yes. So part of the idea of scheduling is that I'm scheduling. That's why I asked permission to go a little bit bigger. So I truly take a big piece of paper, and it's our goal in our family to get away X number of times, right? Or that we want to do little weekends or whatever that happens. I want to make sure that I am putting on the family things first, because I can't get back the time that I have with them. It's precious to me. So I am putting on, and I have to tell you, a lot of it's been penciled and erased off and moved around. That's not the point. The point is I am sharing what's valuable to me on the paper first. And once I get those pieces in, then I start putting in things like job kinds of things, right? As a teacher, I know I'm going to start in August-ish. I'm going to end up in May-ish. And so I get those pieces in there as well. And then from there, I'm able to start looking at the next project that I have. If there is something that's pressed on my heart that I want to be doing, that I need to be doing, then I need to open up the space for that. I need to create the space for that. I am not a natural techie, but there's incredible pieces out there. And so I took a class starting in January, and I have been each of my blocks of time that wasn't for other things that I could put this time towards, I began working on learning some different skills. And it's been so exciting. Now, again, I had to come back to it from a space as I was getting frustrated on some pieces. Look at it like I was on the floor as a kid playing with blocks. We had blocks I loved to build. And we would knock them down, and then we'd start someplace else. And, oh, now I can do it on the table. Now I can do it someplace else. It was just that thought process that changed for me, that allowed me, when I was getting stuck on stuff and couldn't understand why my new laptop was a whole different experience, why I wasn't figuring things out quickly, it gave me the breath to say, I'm just knocking down the blocks. I'm starting over again. So part of it is that self-conversation. Part of it is realizing and feeling inside of yourself. One thing I'd love to share with everybody is that we have this incredible vagus nerve inside of our body. And when we breathe in, our heart rate naturally goes up. And when we breathe out, our heart rate naturally goes down. This is not about holding our breath. That's what happens when we're experiencing things that later on we think of as trauma or hard. It's hard to let go, right? This is just about the natural flow of the breath, lingering on the exhale. So as I'm working on a great big piece of paper, putting down all the things that are important to me, sometimes I have to stop and come back into the breathing. It's okay. How are we going to fit all this in? I don't know. We'll see. Let's try it. Let's see if all the pieces are going to fit. And then serendipity happens, and the most amazing life shows up because I showed up for myself and was willing to put stuff on pieces of paper and play with it and to keep playing with it. And as I'm working on this new piece with technology, I had this conversation yesterday with myself about it's okay for this to be a version, and it's okay for me to completely recreate it in 3 months or 6 months. It's okay. It's a canvas. Play with the paint.
I love that, and that's what took me a long time to really put myself out there, because I wanted it to be perfect, from the very beginning. But yet, as I grow, whatever it is I'm doing should grow as well. So, nobody starts out in the very beginning at the end. Like, it's different. It should change. So that as soon as I realized that, it became so much easier for me to create things and show myself grace.
Yes.
And calm down when I start to get frustrated. Why can't I get this? Because I'm like you. I'm not technology does not come second nature to me. However, when I let go of that, like, sort of identity, everything started to come a lot easier.
Absolutely. And I think I was classically trained as a pianist first. And so my life has always been about vibration, always. And if I think about classical music, they wrote it in 3 different parts, right? They had the first movement that is here we are, this is how it's going to sound. It's a medium speed, medium volume as well. The second movement is the one that I love second movements. It's the Moonlight Sonata, right? It's this, how slowly can this instrument play and how quietly can it play? How much emotion can we get out of that, right? And then the third movement is going to be how fast can the instrument play? how fat and how loud can it be? But if we're able to see, and all those pieces together then come together as the song, as the symphony, as that part of it. And if we're able to see that we need to rest, we need those second movements in our lives, we need that space of being able to be quiet. One of the reasons I feed birds is, yes, I love having the birds around, but it gets me out of the house and outside every single morning. It gets my feet out of the house. And that's just such an important thing. Yeah, I could go out on the balcony, but this gets me to a place where I'm interacting differently. I get to see what's going on. How are my flowers doing? Did they get frostbitten last night? Those kinds of pieces. It's just so helpful for me to stay connected, to come back in to the fact that the sun is rising, and at the end of the day, the sun is setting. It's okay for there to be rest.
Yes, and it's taken me a long time to understand that on a soul level. I understood it intellectually, but I could never put two and two together until I actually did. And it's amazing what opens up when you actually slow down enough to hear and see and be, because we aren't. And I love that saying that we're human beings, not human doings.
Yes.
And
so true.
And I couldn't agree with you more. Now it's gotten to the point where I spend a minimum of 20 minutes outside every day in nature somehow. And I've noticed when if it's towards the end of the day and I feel anxious or I don't feel quite right, oh, I didn't go outside. I mean, except to maybe check the mail or something like that, or go somewhere to the store or something. And it's amazing what a difference it makes. And I just, would love for people who are watching to take that time to figure out what resonates with them and do it.
Yes. And it's okay for that to change over time. What I liked 20 years ago is different than what I enjoy doing today. And that's okay. We are evolving, we are changing. And I love that concept that we are spirit beings having a human experience. So let's have the human experience. If I really enjoyed being in, I'm trying to think of a place that 20 years ago, if I really enjoyed being at a quiet lake 20 years ago, and now I really prefer being at the ocean, yes, both are bodies of water, I get it. But if those are the spaces, it's okay for me to like both of those and for me to be able to see them almost as bookmarks in my life, right? To be able to come through. Another thing, this touches on gratitude for me. The idea of being thankful is that I'm receiving something and I'm saying a thank you back. The idea of gratitude is so much bigger, where somebody is you are giving me this opportunity to share my story, Julianne. And I am grateful. I am feeling it inside of my being as we are doing this. Just the gratitude that you asked. I so appreciate that. And so as we come into spaces of gratitude, I think it's that those are important pieces to put in place. When something catches my eye, I pick up my phone and take a picture of it. I call them memory markers. It may not be a great picture, but the picture that I got of the monk seal when we were in the cave in Kauai, it's not a great picture, but seeing that picture brings me back into that sacred space. It was just such an incredible moment to be able to be there. And then I make albums inside of my phone that has different kinds of ideas based on things that I'm grateful for. And again, it's memory markers. Yes, it's for some people may think it's very gimmicky. I need reminders. And for me, the brain remembers in pictures. So rather than taking the time to draw the picture or write it out and take a picture of it, just take a picture of the experience. It's how the brain remembers it anyway.
I do that too. So you're not alone. You should see my phone. I need to actually organize it a little bit, but I love scrolling through and then finding pictures and remembering, I'd forgotten all about this. And it's kind of fun. And it brings, like you said, it brings you back to that moment and those feelings as well. So maybe if you're not in the best of minds or moods and mindset, then you could say that picture that you were just referring to and look at it, and then your body and your mind go back to that instead. And then, nobody says you have to suffer. I mean, like, you happen to know that I'm going through something a little difficult right now, but I don't have to suffer over it. I still get to be in a good mood. And if I'm not in a good mood, I honor that too, but I don't camp there.
Right,
Just
right.
feel the emotions and let it go. And know
So
that
very
I
true.
am so much more than that. So, and actually, you've helped me with that as well. So I'm just so excited to have you on the show because I just want everybody to see who you are and put you out there. And so this actually, speaking of, I
Mm.
put down your website. That's how people can get a
Yes,
hold of you? Okay,
yes.
perfect. So that way they can reach out and speak with you directly. I want to make sure that that is a possibility.
I would
So,
love that. Yes.
yeah. Yeah. So, with COVID and everything
Mm.
changing, I've learned to actually, this is something I learned a while ago, and it was really interesting. And I learned it from Bob Proctor. And I was at a TV show filming that he was, being filmed. And he was talking about solving problems. And he was talking about how he'd write it out on a piece of paper and he'd literally walk around his desk and be different people looking at the problem. And he could come up with different ideas and different solutions. And I always thought that that was very fascinating because I know, at least for me, before I've done my own work on, perception and all that, I would get stuck. So, for example, COVID happened, my gym closed down. I just don't work out. As opposed to there's stairs down the street, I could run those if I want to. I have a jump rope, I could do that. There's all kinds of classes online and YouTube videos, but a lot of people don't tend to think things through to that extent. So, how do you get yourself past those mental blocks?
I, I don't like it when I get really upset about things. However, having said that, that can be such a great catalyst for me. So we have this amazing trail right next to our house that people drive miles to be able to come use our trail. And then up the hill, we have an entire wilderness area that also people will, yeah, it's a thing. And then came the mask wearing, and then came the, if you're not wearing a mask, we're going to charge you and ticket you hundreds of dollars. And by that point, I was just frustrated. I was frustrated that I was having a hard time getting down to the trail. I also was frustrated that everybody was looking down and that people just, the energy was just, everybody seemed so sad and so frustrated. And so we have a treadmill here at the house. I have never been friends with the treadmill. It's never been my buddy. Other people in the house love it. It's been a great thing for them. And I just thought, you know what? This is my opportunity. I need to be moving. I know that our lymphatic system is the only system in our body that doesn't have a pump. And if we sit too long, not really good things happen over a period of time. So I've got to be moving. And yes, I'm doing classes online in yoga and loving learning all kinds of new things there. However, this gave me the opportunity. My frustration, no, they're not going to tell me that I have to wear a mask. And I totally get it. I get the mask thing. But for me, when I was working out, I was just struggling to breathe in the summer when it was incredibly hot. And that was my frustration point. So I've become friends with the treadmill. But like you, it took me a little time to kind of figure out, what is this going to look like? What is this going to feel like? What's this going to be like? And I think that there are gifts in the pandemic. And one of the gifts for me has been, I didn't realize how important community was for me. And I didn't realize how we were doing Reiki shares at my house twice a month. I didn't realize how that was feeding my soul, feeding my being. And when we went online, that some people were like, nah, it's not for me. And so in that process of knowing that things are changing, it's just, except for me, has accelerated that things are changing. Things were always changing before. I just wasn't paying attention to it. But no 2 days are identical. No two times that I put my foot into the river is the river the same. It's new water flowing over my foot at that point. I was just taking it for granted. I wasn't seeing it anew. And to be able to, so to speak, have the scales taken off my eyes, to be able to see things differently, the preciousness of the time that we have together, to be able to hear people's voices. I take time for my 400 students that I have over a period of 2 days. I take time to have every single one of them unmute so I can hear their voice. I need to hear their voice. It takes time. I absolutely agree. It takes time. We could be doing so much more content during that time. Absolutely. But I need to hear their voice. I need to know that they're okay. And one of the ways is to be able to check in. So I think that there are gifts around us every single day. And I understand hard spaces and hard times. I'm not a Pollyanna, but I also believe and know that when I wake up in the morning, what I choose to do in those first 30 minutes completely frames my day. And I get to choose all day long, but I really get to choose those first 30 minutes. And if I choose to come into a place where the house is still quiet and I choose to have my quiet time and I'm choosing to read the things that fill my soul, I'm choosing to be quiet. I'm choosing to look out over the valley. I'm choosing perspective is what I'm looking for. That's what I'm after first thing in the morning. I want perspective so that the day has perspective.
That's beautiful and well said. I mean, a lot of people wake up and they automatically go into reaction mode, checking the phone, checking the emails, checking social media instead of planning, like just sitting and being and deciding what their day is going to look like. So I love that you do that. I've been guilty of not doing that in the past, and it makes a huge difference. The odds of my day turning out well dramatically decrease when I wake up and I'm just trying to get moving right away. So I love that you mentioned that. And then there's something else I kind of want to touch on, and maybe you can elaborate a little bit more as well. Something that you talked about not really noticing certain things, and I just was, people have a problem with COVID because it's a huge change, and people supposedly don't like change. And my thought is you just don't notice it. It happens all the time. Think about the leaves changing. You don't even notice it. I mean, because you expect it to be there. So if anybody who has, say, moved, and then they've gone back to their hometown, all the people there haven't noticed any of the changes in the buildings and how the trees have grown, yet you see it because it's new, fresh eyes. So I love that idea of fresh eyes on everything. Sorry, on everything. So if you wouldn't mind telling me a little bit more about what you think about that.
I absolutely agree with you. And yes, are there things that we can anticipate to happen at certain times of the year? This weekend is the time that the ducks will typically come and be in our pool. And they didn't always used to come. We had dogs for years, and the dogs were the smallest in the sheep herding. They were corgis, and they were fabulous at making sure. They just wanted to round them up, and the ducks never wanted to be rounded up, right? So the ducks would fly off, and so there changes happens in our life, and we don't have the dogs anymore, and it didn't take too long until the ducks were like, "Oh, this is a place for us to be." So that change as well. There are changes that are happening. You're absolutely right. Again, part of the choice of me owning my own health, owning my own wellness, part of that is me choosing a growth mindset. I can say that everything is same old, nothing is the same. What I read yesterday, I'll read a year from now, and it'll be absolutely the same. Who cares? The songs that I sang growing up, still the same. Who cares, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I listened to music that I had listened to on an LP along a record when I was growing up, and it's a concert in Carnegie Hall, and I just found it this week, and I listened to it, and it sounded completely different because it's the same artist, it's the same songs, it's the same everything, right? Except for the fact that they have gone in, and before they put it on Spotify, they were able to take some of the different pieces out that I could hear on the radio or on the record player. And so again, the newness and feeling the newness of that again, but I had to be willing to be able to look at it that way. So I think that the whole idea of being willing, am I willing for happiness to touch my life? Oh, I want to be happy. Am I willing for it to touch my life? Am I willing to embrace it when it shows up, no matter how it shows up? Has to be on my schedule, has to be my way. Life isn't like that. Am I going to allow for change to come in, and am I going to give myself permission to look at it and look at new creative ways of trying to figure things out? It's a choice. Some of my clients, when they come in, I say to them, I just want you to go do something that you enjoy doing, because that part of their energy in their body isn't moving, it's stuck, because they've stopped doing things that they liked because they are doing things that they need to be doing. I get it. We all have things we need to take care of. But even inside of me paying the bills, the way that I keep my stamps, the way I get to choose the stamp that goes on the envelope, all of those are creative decisions. I get to decide that.
Yeah.
I'm making the decisions to not have all of my stamps look alike. There's a reason for that. It's silly, but yet it allows me to come back into the moment with decisions, with fresh eyes. And I think choosing a growth mindset, just making that decision in and of itself is so healing and so powerful.
Oh, that was really well said. And it really is a choice too. And it's funny too, because I was just thinking about some of the music that I really enjoyed when I was younger. And now that I've grown as a person, the words are still the same, but I don't like the music anymore because I'm like, ooh, well, I can appreciate it for what it was and, that time in my life, but I'm not going to listen to that anymore. Oh, I love that. We are almost out of time. We only have about 3 minutes left, and I would love if I'm put up your website again so that people can reach out to you. And I would love for you to share any last insights, or if you want to recap anything that you mentioned before, just for the audience, or even if there's something that you want to, talk about that what you're doing right now.
Oh, I so appreciate that. One of the things that I really encourage, if you're interested in finding out more about it, the whole idea of setting goals has really allowed me the freedom to be able to play. Before, my life seemed like it was really, really filled with the to-do list and me forgetting and having to do catch up. And I didn't like that. That went on my didn't like list. And so I began working on the idea of setting goals, of having the big pieces of paper, of writing down the ideas and the concepts. And we do have 7 major energy centers that we call chakras. And I chose to write a book on it, on goal setting. And if you are interested in more information about how you can at home without anybody else, just you, the book is designed in such a way that there are spaces to be able to journal, to be able to write, to be able to hear yourself. And it's okay for you to change your answers later on. It's totally fine. But it was really, really helpful for me. And it tells part of my journey and part of my story in that process as well. And the other piece I just really encourage people, whether you are choosing to do Reiki or read a book, I encourage you today, choose life. Choose to do something that makes you know that you're alive. And if that is rubbing your hands on a leaf and smelling it, do that. If it happens to be eating something and you pause and you go, oh, this is a flavor I like or don't like, stop to do that. Take in the moment. Use your senses to be able to experience life in a way that helps you go, oh, I'm alive and I have choices. It's totally worth it.
Oh, that was beautiful and well said. Oh my gosh. I was just thinking about that. I recently started doing this thing where whenever I'm eating something sweeter, because I tend to start shoveling it in instead of enjoying it, is just closing my eyes and eating it with my eyes closed. It's amazing because I only need a bite or two and then I'm happy and satisfied. So it's kind of fun. So to get your book, they can just go to the website.
Okay. They can. There's a link from there onto Amazon. Absolutely.
Perfect.
And if you'd prefer to have an autographed copy, just go ahead and go to ReikiClaremont.com and go to the contacts and you can get a hold of me there as well. And I'm so excited to be able to be with you guys, and just go ahead and share when you email me that you are here because of Julianne. Julianne and I talk almost every single Saturday morning, and I just love to share with her how she's impacting lives as well. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much, Sarah. It's been such a pleasure to have you on the show and a blessing as always. And thank you for being here. I just really adore you.
Thank you so much, friend.
Oh, isn't she amazing? Oh my goodness. I just love her. Now you know why. So I just want to say thank you again for joining us today. It's always a pleasure. And thank you, as I keep mentioning, because I am grateful. And just to let you know, I have a different sort of guest on Monday. Her name is Shelly Lifshin, and she's only 17 years old. but don't allow her age to dissuade you from hearing her wisdom. Because trust me, that woman, that young lady, she knows what she's talking about. Thanks again.